Discover 8 amazing collagen-rich veggies that transform weak legs and tingling hands forever. Sarah's fingers trembled as she peeled off her system's-issued scrubs, remnants of another grueling 12-hour shift swirling away. Exhaustion hung in the air around her, mingling with the musky scent of antiseptic that clung to her skin. The burden of responsibility gnawed at her gut. Each day brought with it a relentless cycle of putting others first, a cycle that left her feeling drained yet desperate to provide a better life for her daughter, Lily. The weight of her father's declining health rested even heavier on her heart, a silent scream for help that echoed in her mind during long nights at the hospital. As she walked to her car, Sarah noticed a bright flyer fluttering against her windshield. Discover 8 amazing collagen-rich veggies that transform weak legs and tingling hands forever. Intrigued, she snapped a photo, curiosity piquing her for a moment amidst the fog of worry. What if these veggies could actually help? But then the dread settled back in like an unwelcome blanket. More pressing concerns loomed, bills piling up, and a looming threat of Brad's enticing offer taunted her inwardly. What if? Gnawed at her consciousness, clashing with her firm belief in hard work and integrity. The next day, she found herself mysteriously drawn to the community garden, where she met Mr. Thompson, his sun-worn smile radiating warmth. His soft voice as he shared gardening tips wrapped around her like a mother's hug. With every seed she planted, she felt the rich earth pull her deeper into a legacy she never knew she craved. For the first time in ages, she felt the heaviness lessen slightly, her headaches drifting into the background as she dug her hands into the soil, gripping hope tightly. But then came the call, the one she had both dreaded and feared. Brad's voice rang through her phone, oozing insincerity, waiting to wrap around her conscience like a snake. The alarm bells blared in Sarah's mind as he offered her a position at his medical group, showering her with praise but cloaking it in moral muck. "Great salary," he said. "Just need you to keep things quiet." The temptation to resolve her financial worries roared like a wildfire. Yet, every offer felt like a blade slicing at her values, not just for her, but for the little eyes of Lily watching her every move. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The decision spiraled in her mind like a tangle of roots. The thought of betraying the principles she instilled in Lily tormented her. What if her daughter learned about the offer? What kind of legacy would that leave? Anguish crashed over her in waves, stealing her breath. She recalled the laughter-filled evenings they spent in the garden, every flower a promise unbroken. They deserved better. Could waving away the storm clouds of doubt blind her to possibility? With Mr. Thompson by her side, Sarah faced the impending confrontation with an iron spine, but her heart raced as tension flushed through her. She could almost feel her muscles constricting under the pressure. Standing at the crossroads of hope and obligation, every heartbeat pushed her towards a reckoning. Would she uncover strength and truth, or would she remain shackled by uncertainty? The answer loomed urgently ahead. The moment of reckoning unfurled like promise in the garden, vibrant yet fragile, suspended in the air between her heart and mind, daring her to choose. The soft rustle of leaves surrounded Sarah as she stood in the community garden, the sun dipping low and casting elongated shadows on the ground. The weight of Brad's offer clung to her like the humidity in the air, dense and oppressive, suffocating her spirit. Mr. Thompson's gentle presence was a balm against her turmoil, but she felt herself growing restless. Every moment spent there reminded her of the stakes she faced: her father's health, her financial pressures, and Lily's innocent gaze. "What's bothering you, Sarah?" Mr. Thompson asked, his voice sincere, pulling her from her spiral of thoughts. It was rare for her to open up, but there was something about the garden, about him, that felt safe. She hesitated, her heart racing at the thought of spilling her vulnerabilities, but in the end, she needed to voice her fears. I've been offered a job," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. "It could change everything for us, but I would have to compromise my principles." As the words left her lips, she felt an unusual lightness, a release from her tightly wound coils of anxiety. Mr. Thompson listened intently, nodding as she spoke. "Integrity is worth more than gold, Sarah," he said softly. "Sometimes, the hardest choices reveal our true character." His words stung. They rooted her with unsettling clarity. What kind of example would she set for Lily if she chose money over morality? Torn between ambition and allegiance, Sarah's inner conflict raged like a tempest. She envied the ease with which Mr. Thompson shared his knowledge of plants and life. His unwavering ethics resounded deeply in her heart. Each connection he drew between gardening and personal growth sparked something within her, something she feared was fading. Suddenly, a thought emerged from the depths of her turmoil. What if she could merge her love for medicine with her newfound passion for the garden? There lay a world of health benefits hidden in those soil-rich veggies, just waiting to be explored. They could be the key that unlocked a more holistic approach to well-being, not only for her father, but for others in her community. That night, as she tucked Lily into bed, Sarah's resolve began to harden. She envisioned a plan. Maybe instead of succumbing to the seduction of Brad's offer, she could gather like-minded individuals and start a community initiative focused on wellness through nutrition. It would embrace the transformative power of the very veggies she discovered through Mr. Thompson. She would need to find local health enthusiasts or possibly collaborate with nutritionists to create workshops, guiding others towards healthier living. Each successful workshop would help build her reputation back in the health field without compromising her morals. The satisfying thought began to fill her with determination. But uncertainty still meandered like fog at the edges of her newfound clarity. Would she be able to pull in resources? Would the community embrace her vision? In her heart, she felt a spark of possibility that nearly drowned the pervasive grip of doubt. Deciding to grasp her chance, Sarah made a mental note to speak with Mr. Thompson again. He had wisdom to share, and perhaps together they could outline the initial barriers to her vision. She sensed that this was a pivotal moment, not just for herself, but for every individual she could inspire. Tomorrow held promise, uncertainty, and a series of choices that would shape her future. As she closed her eyes, she whispered a silent plea for clarity. Just before sleep washed over her, one question surfaced, potent and clear. How far was she willing to go to transform her ideals into action? Her heart thudded in her chest, anticipation thrumming in the background as she drifted off. Tomorrow, she would face the ramifications of the choices set before her. Grabbing the opportunity to define her path, she steeled herself for the milestone ahead, setting the stage for a confrontation that could either ignite her ambitions or extinguish them irreparably. The morning sun broke through the window, illuminating Sarah's small kitchen and casting warm light across the table cluttered with remnants of breakfast. As she sipped her coffee, thoughts of the previous night's revelations swirled. A meeting with Mr. Thompson was imperative, and the vision of a wellness initiative danced in her mind, urging her to action. This was more than just a project. It was a chance to redefine herself, to step toward a life where integrity and ambition could coexist. Messy hair and all, Sarah threw on a light jacket and left the house, the persistent hum of doubt tugging at her. Doubt remained, oscillating between the joy of her plan and the fear of potential failure. What if the community dismissed her vision as idealistic? Paychecks, after all, didn't tea grow on trees? The reminder of her father's dwindling health only intensified her frustration. She needed tangible certainty, not ethereal dreams. The garden welcomed her with its earthy scent, the vibrant greens standing in stark contrast to the weight she felt inside. Mr. Thompson was kneeling before a patch of tomatoes, and she approached him with equal parts eagerness and trepidation. "Mr. Thompson," she started, her voice steadier than her quaking stomach. "I have an idea that might combine everything I've been learning here. I want to start workshops that promote health and wellness through nutrition." His brow raised slightly, but intrigue danced in his eyes. "That's quite an initiative, Sarah. Do you have a plan?" The question forced her to confront her scattered thoughts, the light bulb moments from the previous day crashing together. "I want to invite nutritionists and health enthusiasts from the area. Maybe collaborate with local gardens to show people how to grow their own vegetables, how nutrition impacts well-being. It could be life-changing." Mr. Thompson stood, brushing dirt from his hands, and stepped closer to her, his expression reflecting both pride and concern. "And how do you think the community would respond?" She paused, the vibrant vision blurring with insecurity. "I don't know. They might think I'm naive, or that I'm trying to push something impractical. I'm terrified of judgment, but the need for this is clear to me." He placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. Fear is a natural response when stepping into the unknown. But remember, the most sustainable plants need nurturing and resilience to thrive. You've already taken the first step by envisioning this. Her spirit surged momentarily at his encouragement, yet the question loomed. What if she failed? What if she couldn't attract participants or resources? She had nothing to fall back on if this went wrong. "But where do I start?" she asked, thirsting for more clarity. "Identify your allies," he suggested. "Look at those around you, friends, family. They might surprise you with their support. You could also consider venues in town where people gather. Start small, it grows from there." The practical advice dispelled a bit of her anxiety. She could cultivate a network, gather support from those who already believed in her. Maybe even use her father's connections. As they spoke further, Sarah mapped out the immediate next steps. She felt invigorated, armed with a list of action items. Each thought tiptoed away from fear, reinforcing her commitment to a future led by purpose. Yet, just as she began to entertain the potential success of her initiative, a gnawing thought surfaced. What if Brad caught wind of her plans? He would ridicule her vision, belittle her ideals, and push her back towards safety and security, but at what cost? "Mr. Thompson, I need to prepare for resistance, especially from people whom I thought I could trust. You must follow your path, regardless of the obstacles. Strength lies in knowing your values," he reminded her, yet the uncertainty about Brad's influence lingered. With resolve building in her heart, Sarah straightened her posture. She would not allow past doubts to steer her away. Her journey was hers alone, and she would blaze the trail toward transformative wellness. As she departed the garden, her mind raced with plans and strategies, excitement mixing with a tinge of fear. Determined to carve her own space, she knew the conversation with Brad was unavoidable. The time had come to face his doubts and confront her own trepidation. Could she turn their past conversations into a source of strength, instead of surrendering to his expectations? The thought of that confrontation hardened her resolve. The imminent challenge surged in her mind, a test that could ultimately define her new direction. How fully could she stand for her beliefs when faced with someone who represented the path she had once thought she wanted? As Sarah left the garden, each step felt heavier than the last. Doubt whispered reminders of her past, each word wrapping around her throat like a noose. She had spent so long adhering to the expectations laid out by Brad, the safe route etched into her mind, that actual ambition felt both thrilling and terrifying. Today, she understood the necessity of confronting her fears head-on. But confronting Brad wouldn't just be an obstacle, it would reveal who she had become. Her heart quickened at the thought of the heated discussions they often had, arguments fueled by sharp, dismissive remarks that sliced through her confidence. What if this time, he dismissed her entirely? She couldn't ignore the possibility that her years of retreating into the shadows had weakened her voice, twisting her thoughts into knots that were difficult to unravel. She arrived at the cafe where they were set to meet. Its familiar hum enveloped her like an old blanket, cozy yet constricting. Taking a moment to breathe, Sarah reminded herself of Mr. Thompson's advice. Identify your allies. She had rehearsed her points countless times in her head, the trajectory of her plan, how it connected deeply to her values. She would articulate the tangible benefits of wellness, not just for herself, but for the community around her. The bell above the door jingled as Brad stepped in, his casual demeanor contrasting sharply with the storm brewing inside her. He spotted her and approached with that infuriatingly relaxed confidence. "Hey, you look serious today," he quipped, skepticism lacing his tone. It grounded her. It reminded her why she was here. "Let us talk," she began, cutting through his light banter before he could dive into the usual teasing. "Talk? You sound like you're about to reveal a monumental secret," he chuckled, settling into the adjacent chair with an air of nonchalance, oblivious to the gravity of her intent. "I want to start a wellness initiative," she said, the words spilling out before she could second-guess herself. "I'm going to host workshops on nutrition and health, teach people about growing their own food, the benefits of it all." The laughter faded from his eyes, replaced by an incredulous stare. Seriously? You think this is going to fly? What makes you think people care about that? She felt the familiar pang of self-doubt, but pushed it aside. Because I care, she stated firmly, recalling all the moments that led her here. The conversations with Mr. Thompson, the articles she had read, the passion ignited by her father's struggle with health. Brad crossed his arms, his brow furrowing into a formidable reality check. You're going to waste your time on this passion project? You have a good job, Sarah. You're a smart woman. Why throw away your stability? Because that stability doesn't make me happy, she replied sharply, the flicker of defiance kindling within her chest. I've been safe for too long. I need to pursue something that brings meaning to my life. My father's health has reminded me how fragile this all is. For a moment, his expressions shifted between disbelief and concern, yet she recognized a sparkle of something else: curiosity. Do you even know how to run a workshop? What credentials do you have? He pressed, each question layering doubt onto her resolve. Those layers felt familiar, but they no longer paralyzed her. No, I don't, but I'm willing to learn. That's part of the process. I've been in your shadow for too long, allowing you to dictate how I should see myself. But I'm ready to step out. Silence enveloped them, a palpable tension filled the space, as if the very air was curating her next move. Brad's expression softened slightly. So, you're serious about this, huh? I am, but I need your support. I don't expect you to understand, but I can't let you derail me anymore. Her voice steadied, anchoring her truth. He tilted his head, acknowledging her bravery, the defensiveness in his posture wavering just a bit. I guess you're determined, but be careful. You're not alone in this fight, you know. The words felt like a turning point. A challenge cloaked in complicated concern. It opened a door one she wasn't sure she was ready to walk through, but felt a pull toward nonetheless. So now it's a fight? She responded, a hint of amusement swimming through the edges of her unease. He shrugged. You are not the only one learning about resilience here. The dynamic had shifted. She recognized the kernel of support beneath Brad's skepticism, a glimpse of a newfound respect. As they continued exchanging thoughts, Sarah felt a determination blossom within her, fueled by a combination of fear and newfound optimism. The road ahead remained murky, and obstacles would inevitably rise, but she had taken a crucial step in standing for her beliefs. As they wrapped up their conversation, Sarah realized that her confrontation with Brad had unearthed something important, the realization that her own strength could confront any naysayer, including those she once held dear. Now, all that was left was to confront another obstacle: the logistics of her plan and the looming fear of failure, a challenge that could either reaffirm her commitment or lead her to question all that she had envisioned. With that lurking uncertainty overshadowing her burgeoning resolve, Sarah understood that she needed to gather more allies, solidify her plans, and prepare for the backlash that might follow. The road she had begun to pave was still uncertain, underscored with doubt and hope that grafted her ambition to reality. But one thing was clear: failure was no longer an option she could contemplate. The next phase of her journey awaited, demanding both persistence and fortitude. Would she be ready to face the next set of challenges head-on? As the weight of unresolved logistics settled over her like a damp blanket, Sarah left the cafe, her mind racing with possibilities and pitfalls. The uncertainty now wasn't just about others' reactions. It felt like a living entity, a specter trailing behind her. But for every step she took, the firmness in her resolve tightened a fraction more. Her phone buzzed against her thigh, the screen lighting up with a message from Mr. Thompson. Remember, small steps lead to great changes. Don't forget to dream big. Small steps. She realized that was her immediate challenge, to break her larger dreams into actionable items. If she could delineate each component of her wellness initiative, she might bridge the gap between excitement and trepidation. At her desk, she scribbled potential workshop topics, her handwriting surging with enthusiasm. Nutrition basics, home gardening, urban farming, she mused aloud. Each word opened a door to further possibilities. But beneath her burgeoning excitement lingered a disquieting echo of doubt. What if people dismissed her because she had no formal credentials? She felt a wave of indignation rising within her. She didn't have to be a certified expert to share valuable knowledge. Flashes of her father's struggle surfaced, his persistent inquisitiveness about healthy eating even after his diagnosis. That passion and his journey could provide the foundation for her purpose. With a deeper understanding of who she wanted to be, Sarah began to envision her workshops not merely as sessions of imparting information, but as environments of collaboration and transformation. She imagined her audience, people eager to learn, to engage, and to evolve together. The thought injected new energy into her spirit. However, surveying her scattered notes, she admitted to herself that she needed practical insight on executing these ideas. Networking, she said, the word igniting a mental spark. She recalled the various professionals at the health expo she had attended last month. Overwhelmed by their expertise then, she now realized they could be her potential allies. With her resolve steeled, Sarah set about drafting an invitation email, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She offered to connect over coffee, eager to absorb their experiences while voraciously seeking advice. Each contact she made was a building block in her confidence. Yet her excitement was met with an unexpected backlash, a sense of self-consciousness. Would they view her as just another aspiring wellness coach? She shook her head, dispelling the specter of doubt. Her journey was unique, created from her father's health struggles and her accumulated knowledge. This was personal. Just as she hit send on her email, a knock on her office door startled her. It was Michelle, her old colleague, who had left for a similar career in health coaching. Their paths had diverged, but their aspirations felt harmoniously aligned. "Sarah, I heard you have a passion project brewing." She grinned, curiosity sparking in her eyes. The conversation that followed opened a floodgate of support and camaraderie. Michelle's insights, rooted in her own missteps and successes, infused traction into Sarah's burgeoning initiative. The two discussed logistics, marketing strategies, and the importance of feedback. A mentor-mentee relationship formed organically, yielding not only knowledge but an unexpected friendship. As they parted ways with plans for a follow-up coffee, Sarah felt buoyed with determination and an invigorating sense of purpose. Yet, lurking beneath her newfound confidence was an ever-present whisper of uncertainty. She reminded herself that mentorship wouldn't wipe away her fears. If anything, it would amplify them as she ventured further from safety. Now she faced the delicate balance of vulnerability and strength. Just as she had quelled her insecurities around Brad's skepticism, she could feel another shadow creeping in. The fear of using her voice, of public speaking, and sharing her vision in front of even bigger audiences. The nature of this transition was becoming clear. Her ability to articulate her ideas would be paramount. Standing in front of the mirror later, Sarah spoke the words she wanted to present eloquent, whole, and direct. Each repetition nudged away doubt, revealing her authentic self behind the flourishing ambition. The next challenge loomed, demanding both courage and preparation. Would she stand tall when faced with a room full of critics or admirers? Just as those thoughts cascaded, a notification dinged on her phone, a new email pinging to life. It reads simple but striking. "Let us discuss collaboration on health workshops." That ripple became a wave, and she knew it was time to surge forward. The burgeoning anxiety teased her, taunting at how easily it could spiral if left unchecked. Would this be the affirmation she sought, or another hurdle to navigate? Her heart raced, anticipation weaving through her veins. The moment of truth was approaching, but now she had reached a pivot point, a step closer to understanding what it meant to truly advocate for her passion. As she prepared to engage deeply with this new contact, a fundamental question loomed ahead. Could her vision withstand the rigorous scrutiny of the very professionals she sought to emulate? As Sarah sat at her desk, the swirling emotions brought on by the email coalesced into a singular focus. She needed to prepare. This collaboration could be her breakout moment, the opportunity that solidified her place within the wellness community. She took a slow, steadying breath. Opening her laptop, she flipped to a blank document and titled it "Collaboration with Contact Name." The blank screen felt like a vast, open field, ripe for exploration. The challenge ahead stirred both excitement and trepidation. She reflected on her recent conversations with Michelle, the shared wisdom, the practical advice, the laughter that lightened her worries. But now, it was time to return to that place of professionalism where the stakes felt higher. Gathering her thoughts, Sarah began outlining key points for her potential discussion. She needed to showcase not just her vision, but also her knowledge. What makes my approach different? She asked herself. It was crucial to articulate how her personal journey fueled her mission. Drawing on her father's struggle for better health served as a profound motivational anchor. But how could she communicate that effectively to seasoned professionals? The clock ticked slowly as she mulled over her ideas. She realized she could transform her passion into a compelling narrative, one that resonated on both a personal and collective level. Each workshop idea morphed from simple topics into powerful stories of resilience and growth. With each edition, she felt the embers of self-doubt cooling into a bedrock of confidence. With her outline taking shape, Sarah began to research her proposed topics more deeply. She understood that to persuade and connect, she would need more than enthusiasm, she required data. Unraveling studies on urban farming, she noted statistics on community health improvements and sustainability benefits. Realizing that her personal experience brought a unique perspective to hard data excited her. This was the bridge she needed to connect tradition to innovation. As the day wore on, she found herself immersed in conversation threads within online forums and professional groups. Each click unveiled a tapestry of ideas, reminding her that her voice mattered in a landscape saturated with expertise. The clarity of her objectives sharpened, transitioning from vague aspirations to tangible goals. However, as the hours passed, self-doubt crept back in. What if everything she had drafted still fell flat? What if others dismissed her involvement as amateurish? These invasive thoughts repeated like echoes, tormenting her resolve. In that moment of vulnerability, she made a decision. Rather than allowing uncertainty to consume her, Sarah chose to confront it head-on. She picked up the phone and called Michelle, eager to share her progress and seek feedback. When her colleague answered, her vibrant tone sparked a wave of encouragement that washed over Sarah, rekindling her belief in the journey they both embarked upon. Through the exchange, Michelle challenged Sarah's ideas, pushing her to clarify objectives and consider potential feedback from workshop participants. Each question Michelle posed was a gentle nudge into deeper self-reflection and further crystallized her vision. They discussed the importance of adaptability and responsiveness to an audience's needs, a conversation that illuminated crucial aspects of coaching she hadn't fully grasped before. As they hung up, Sarah felt invigorated. With Michelle's insights woven into her plans, her confidence returned. She understood that her original fear of rejection was merely part of the learning curve, a reflection of her commitment to growth. Revisiting her document, Sarah crafted a compelling introduction for her upcoming discussion that articulated not just her passion, but her resolve to effect positive change in the community. Catching a glimpse of herself in the reflection of the screen, she grinned. But even as she prepared for what lay ahead, she couldn't shake off the gnawing uncertainty about her ability to engage with experienced professionals. The collaboration presented an opportunity, yes, but also a risk. The possibility of falling short of her aspirations loomed closer. As she clicked save on her document, her heart raced with anticipation and fear, but determination overshadowed them all. She was ready, not just to advocate for her passion, but to confront whatever challenges awaited her. The next day would be pivotal, each moment a test of her conviction and capacity to stand firm in her vision. Today, as preparations were merely the beginning, the true test would lay in the discussions to come. Would she manage to harness this moment into a launching pad for her initiative, or would she falter in front of those who had successfully navigated the very waters she was just beginning to explore? The morning dawned with a light drizzle, casting soft shadows on Sarah's cluttered desk as she faced her laptop. Sleep had evaded her, a deliberate abstention from rest brought on by the anticipation of the meeting that awaited her. It wasn't just the collaboration she was nervous about. It was the unveiling of her ideas, her passion woven into a tapestry of data-driven insights. She needed to convince established professionals not just with facts, but with a story that connected her to their experience. With a quick glance at her outline, she knew she had a solid foundation. The topics she devised were backed by research, but as the minutes ticked toward the meeting, doubt crept back in, uninvited. What if her ideas seemed superficial or lacked substance in the scrutiny of seasoned voices? Each thought materialized like a raindrop, adding weight to her chest and dimming the spark of enthusiasm she had ignited the previous day. Taking a deep breath, Sarah reminded herself of her journey, how her father's challenges had never been a crutch but a catalyst. His health struggles didn't just inspire her, they defined her mission. Shifting her energy, she opened a new tab and read through success stories from others who had tread this path. A pattern emerged. Resilience and authenticity were valued commodities in professional circles. She realized that her narrative wasn't simply a backdrop. It was a lens through which she viewed her work. Feeling a sense of clarity settle, Sarah paused to visualize the potential outcomes. What if she delivered a presentation that sparked genuine interest, igniting a conversation rather than a mere review? Her palms began to sweat with excitement at the thought of engaging in a dialogue, exchanging ideas rather than merely presenting her own. The time came for her to leave, and as she stepped out into the world, the fresh air as well as the weight of the opportunity ahead refreshed her spirit. With each step toward the venue, her self-talk became affirmative. Sarah focused on the energy of the gathering, imagining the diversity of thought she would encounter. Arriving, she felt a jolt of electricity in her veins as she entered the space. Professionals mingled, and she was met with a sea of unfamiliar faces. This was both intimidating and exhilarating. Worry washed over her, but she distinguished it from self-doubt. It was a natural response to the unknown. Her eyes scanned the room, and she spotted her contact, an accomplished figure radiating confidence. As Sarah approached, she could hear snippets of conversation, mostly about grand successes and enlightening theories. The sense of standing on the precipice of opportunity left her hesitant, but she reminded herself that she belonged here. The butterflies stirred within her, not as a sign of fear, but as an indication that she was alive to the moment. "Sarah." The contact's voice broke through her mental knot. The warmth in the greeting grounded her. It was time to showcase her journey. As introductions were made, she felt a shift. Each handshake was more than a formality. It was a chance to weave her essence into the fabric of this environment. They were not just professionals, they were potential allies. She was no longer just a newcomer. She was a part of this narrative unfolding. When it was time for her presentation, the weight of expectation hung in the air. She recalled the challenges of her father and found comfort in that shared struggle. Her voice shook at first, but as she began sharing her vision, the nerves transformed into passion. They really listened, and slowly, doubts began to evacuate her mind. Midway through her delivery, a question from the audience threw her off balance. It was pointed and directly challenged her assumptions. The room turned silent, anticipation lingering in the air. But in that moment, Sarah felt an unfamiliar sensation: clarity. She could see the core of her argument shining through their skepticism. Rather than retreat into defensiveness, she embraced the inquiry. The question had illuminated a point she hadn't fully articulated yet, unveiling a gap in her narrative that only deepened her understanding of the topic. She answered with conviction, addressing their concerns while weaving in her insights about resilience and change. As the discussion continued, Sarah realized this was the growth she had been striving for: engagement that forced her to think on her feet while reinforcing her foundational beliefs. She unveiled not just statistics, but the underlying experiences that shaped her philosophy. By the end, the initial tension transformed into a collaborative space. Mutual respect brewed and insights shared rather than hierarchies maintained. As the meeting wrapped up, Sarah felt a wave of exhilaration wash over her. She had embraced the challenge, exchanged ideas, and come away with newfound connections and a sharpened vision. However, just as she began to feel the thrill of triumph, a competing voice in the room demanded attention. It was someone with a contrasting perspective, someone whose concrete achievements threatened to overshadow her light. The challenge was far from over, and as she turned to listen, anticipation gripped her once more. Would she be ready to defend her approach against seasoned skepticism? Or would the tide turn against her in this cutthroat arena? The answer awaited her, hanging in the balance as she stood at the intersection of growth and uncertainty. The moment she turned to face the unknown voice, Sarah's pulse quickened. The figure before her was impressive, tall with an authoritative presence that demanded respect. The member of the panel leaned against the podium, arms crossed, and radiated a confidence that teetered on arrogance. His reputation as a disruptor in the field preceded him, and that alone stoked a quiet fire of determination within her. "Your insights on resilience are intriguing," he began, almost mocking, "but I'm curious how you'll manage the inevitable pushback from more traditional methodologies in our industry. Do you think there's room for your approach when the data so clearly favors existing frameworks?" His question dripped with skepticism. It was a challenge, perhaps intended to belittle what she brought to the table, but Sarah sensed an opportunity. She could feel the eyes of the audience drifting toward her, a collective breath held in anticipation. She could either shrink back or seize the moment. With a steadiness she hadn't expected to possess, Sarah straightened her posture and met his gaze. "I appreciate your question because it strikes at the heart of why we engage in dialogue like this. Yes, traditional methodologies have shaped our understanding, but they haven't captured the complexities of human experience. My approach, rooted in real stories and resilience, provides a deeper context that I believe could address gaps in the data." The tension in the room shifted, palpable and charged. This was her moment. Rather than defending herself, she pivoted, inviting the discourse into the space she had crafted. Change is not just about numbers. It's about understanding motivations, personal journeys, and mental frameworks. That's what drives innovation. Isn't that something we should be exploring more deeply? A flutter of murmurs rippled through the crowd. Intrigue sparked in eyes around her. The initial barrage of doubt transformed into a moment of reflective consideration. Sarah felt the high tide of her confidence swell, pushing against the undercurrent of intimidation she had sensed only moments before. "Interesting proposition, Sarah," the man replied, somewhat deflated but still insistent. "However, while I appreciate the conceptual angle, can you provide practical examples of where your theories have made a measurable impact?" She paused, pressing her fingertips against the surface of the podium for balance. The room had shifted from a battleground of assertion to a shared quest for knowledge. Noticing several faces nodding in agreement, her heart warmed. This wasn't just about a defense, but an exploration, a co-creation of new ideas. "Absolutely," she nodded, and allowed her mind to flash back to a case study she had reviewed, preparing to share a narrative that illustrated the essence of her concepts in action. "In our local community, we implemented a program that engaged individuals in understanding their health through personal story sharing. Instead of merely providing clinical data, we found that real-life narratives increased participation and led to sustained changes." As she continued, weaving the threads of her experience with tangible outcomes, she noticed a shift not only in her delivery, but in the room itself. The initial skepticism began to yield to curiosity, and she reveled in the transformation. When she completed her example, she had not only provided evidence, but invited further questions. "This approach isn't just theoretical," she concluded. "It's about enriching our understanding of human resilience and using that to drive actionable change." The rival expert leaned back, perhaps not fully convinced, but visibly intrigued. An unexpected win. Sarah's heart soared. She had navigated the challenge deftly, illustrating that she could handle pushback while defending her stance with expertise. For the first time, she felt the weight of the world lift slightly from her shoulders. As conversation resumed, a few attendees approached her, eager to discuss her approach further. Their acceptance felt like validation, a sign that her voice mattered. Yet, amid the excitement, Sarah sensed the underlying current of competition still looming in the room. The poised expert from earlier was not the only obstacle in her path. A few others were discussing theories that countered her thoughts, their laughter echoing with unconvincing bravado. As Sarah scanned the crowd, she saw that she was not just a participant. She had positioned herself as a contender in a race that was far from over. A deep breath filled her lungs as she recognized that she stood on the brink of significant professional growth. But lingering questions remained. Was she ready to confront more than just theoretical challenges? How would she maintain her momentum under continued scrutiny? These thoughts raced through her mind as she prepared to dive deeper into the conversation, desiring not just acceptance, but genuine collaboration. The stakes had escalated, and she was now faced with an uncharted territory of competitive scrutiny. Would she rise to inspire not just connections, but a movement for change in a world resistant to it? The tension hung tangible in the air as Sarah prepared to dismantle the barriers standing in her way. As the discussions continued to swirl around her, Sarah took a moment to collect her thoughts. She could feel a mix of adrenaline and fear coursing through her like a potent elixir. This was more than just a presentation. It was a critical threshold in her career where the stakes felt unfathomably high. The urge to prove herself surged alongside an emerging awareness of her potential, the realization that she was not just another voice in the crowd, but a pivotal player in an evolving narrative. An enthusiastic attendee approached her, eyes gleaming with the thrill of intellectual engagement. "You spoke about engaging narratives," he initiated, "but how do you tackle the resistance of entrenched perspectives in our field? Are there strategies you use to break through?" They were no longer mere skeptics. They were curious collaborators now. As Sarah considered her response, a strategy began to form. Engaging deeply with those perspectives is just as vital as presenting alternatives. I believe in establishing rapport, understanding where the resistance originates. Once you empathize with their concerns, it ceases to be a battle but becomes a dialogue. We reach common ground through shared experiences. Her passion resonated, sparking broader conversation among the surrounding audience members. Ideas flowed freely as they exchanged thoughts. Sarah found her initial tension transforming into a contagious enthusiasm, one that facilitated a deeper inquiry into the very theories she championed. She realized she was evolving from simply defending her ideas to actively shaping an exploratory exchange. Yet, even in this lively atmosphere, she could not overlook the looming shadows of competition. The rival expert from earlier had captivated the attention of several attendees, their laughter an echo of his confidence. Sarah felt the palpable challenge in the air. To truly cement her place in this conversation, she needed to confront his established authority with both tact and tenacity. As the discussions continued, the expert began to interject frequently, attempting to steer the dialogue back toward conventional methodologies. Sarah noted his tactics: subtle interruptions, smirks, and dismissive comments aimed to undermine the emerging unity around her ideas. With each barb, however, she sensed an opportunity to refine her message. She took a deep breath. This was her chance not just to diminish the doubt surrounding her methods, but to illuminate the potential of divergent thinking. "While I appreciate the foundation traditional methodologies provide," she began, allowing her voice to gain strength, "we must recognize their limitations in understanding the full spectrum of human experience. When we try to partition the human experience into quantifiable metrics, we risk losing the richness of stories that truly move us toward change." Those words sparked a slight shift in atmosphere, a crack in the armor of indifference surrounding the expert. The room was caught between two competing ideologies. Anxiety prickled at her senses, yet it ignited determination within her. She realized that this was no longer solely about her approach. It was about advocating for a transformation in how they all viewed resilience. The discussion deepened, with her gaining allies and even causing the expert to falter momentarily. The rift between them widened, crystallizing the battle lines between old and new paradigms of thought. Yet beneath her growing confidence lay a gnawing concern. How could she continue to navigate this precarious balance of influence while remaining true to her vision? The clock drew nearer to closing, and Sarah knew she needed to land her points with impact. "Real change begins when we dare to dive into the uncomfortable," she stated, her gaze piercing through the room. "It begins when we challenge the comfortable notions of who we are and what defines success." As the audience's applause cascaded around her, Sarah felt a rush. But with every spark of encouragement came a renewing apprehension. The conversation had shifted, yet her path was fraught with unprecedented challenges ahead. That rival expert was not finished. He would not concede lightly. With the taste of victory still sweet on her tongue, a more profound conflict loomed. Would she find the grit needed to face him head-on in the next discussion? The moment had come where her battle for acceptance transformed into a confrontation of comparability. She had displayed her mettle, yet the journey was far from over. How would she sustain the momentum and assert her impact against those entrenched in tradition? All eyes were on her, and the weight of expectation intensified. As Sarah stepped outside the venue, the cool evening air wrapped around her like a refreshing embrace. A sense of exhilaration surged through her veins, encouraged by the conversation she had fostered and the respect she had earned in that room. Yet the soft, whispering anxiety of what lay ahead remained ever present. An echoing reminder of the challenge still faced the rival expert poised with sharp critiques ready to dismantle her emerging reputation. But this evening marked a turning point, a vivid contrast to the exhausted woman who had once feared her own voice. That timid nurse, bogged down by the weight of uncertainty and the influence of Brad's shallow offers, had transformed into someone resolute, someone emboldened by the story she carried. As she opened her phone, the screen lit up with messages of support from attendees who admired her passion and the methodology she so boldly presented. Each notification felt like another layer of armor solidifying her new professional identity. Determination ignited within her. No longer would she cower at the notion of being an outsider in a traditionally dominated field. Hadn't she already shown that her approach, grounded in empathy and lived experiences, could foster incredible connections with every individual she touched? With renewed confidence, Sarah began to cultivate a plan. She knew the importance of leveraging her newfound alliances and engaging with practitioners who recognized the value of her knowledge. As she jotted down her visions for future workshops, Sarah's resolve grew clearer. She would not only build a reputation, she would cultivate a movement for holistic wellness that fused traditional knowledge with transformative storytelling. As she walked home, the rhythm of her footsteps matched her racing thoughts. What would be the next step? How could she harness the energy from her recent victories to sustain momentum? She envisioned outlining a series of workshops, inviting experts in both nutrition and mental wellness to co-create programs that would address the community's needs holistically. By the time she reached her front door, clarity took root. Sarah felt a shift, a quiet yet profound acceptance of her own power. She would take action. She would create a network of advocates. The first step would be to mobilize her contacts from the meeting and establish interest in her wellness initiative, since the passion she had ignited already lingered in the air. The next morning brought with it a sense of renewed purpose. Sarah reached out to her connections, crafting invitations for an initial brainstorming session. Mixing her love of medicine with holistic health had become her voice, and she would not allow it to be subdued by dissenters. She felt every word resonate with authenticity as she articulated her vision for collaboration, creating something bigger than herself. Using her father's struggles as a guiding narrative, she crafted a mission statement that anchored her initiative, one that celebrated the personal journeys behind every participant's desire for change. Familiar insecurities tugged at her, but she acknowledged them as remnants of her former self. She was not merely creating workshops. She was establishing a community, a platform for collective strength. She began designing engaging materials, ensuring they provided genuine resources to help participants forge their paths toward healthier lives. Watching her vision grow into a tangible form filled her with intense satisfaction and confidence, the likes of which she had never felt before. Weeks passed, and the energy of her newly formed network became palpable. Each gathering manifested collaborative creativity and enthusiasm that encouraged deeper discussions. The community had begun to flourish. Local businesses rallied support, offering spaces, resources, or sponsorship as Sarah's passion shifted into momentum. At the first workshop, as Sarah stood before a room of eager participants, she observed their reactions: curiosity, interest, and excitement. The culmination of her struggles, growth, and unwavering dedication converged in that moment. She delivered her opening speech, recalling her father's journey as an empowering force in her life. Every word ignited a longing for community and transformation among those present. As discussions flowed, stories filled the air, creating a breathtaking tapestry that illustrated human experience powered by resilience and healthy living. The laughter and dialogue were tangible indicators of success. In fostering connections, Sarah had built not just workshops, but a true sanctuary for growth and togetherness. With each passing session, her confidence solidified, reinforced by enthusiastic feedback and collaborative projects birthed from the budding community. She no longer felt like an outsider. She had forged her path, claimed her stakes, and earned her place within a vibrant landscape. In the throes of her work, she found the strength to confront Brad once again. Within the whirlwind of her rising success, she embraced leadership and vision that eclipsed her fears. Meeting him proved to be another turning point. No longer would she compromise her principles or integrity. The woman who had once felt timid and small stood tall and assured, ready to claim her contributions to the field she loved. I've stepped into my own, she realized, an overwhelming sense of pride swelling within her. In that moment, not only did she recognize her growth, but she also appreciated the journey that led her there. No longer shackled to old perceptions of herself, she understood that her voice mattered not only to her, but to every individual seeking relief from conventionality. With her head held high, Sarah resolved to fuel the fire of transformation. Her journey had just begun, and she was ready to embrace everything the future held. She had become a testament to resilience, not just for herself, but for her community and her little daughter, Lily. The legacy of authentic care, genuine integrity, and overarching hope echoed within her, shaping a world that would inspire deeper connections and meaningful transformations for generations to come. Now is the moment to take action. You need to subscribe now to stay updated on these powerful, personal stories. Don't hesitate to leave a like now and support the channel. We want to hear your thoughts. Comment your reactions and insights about this transformative journey. Finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to be inspired by Sarah's incredible story. Time is of the essence. Don't wait even one more second to show your support for this movement.